Yeah.
You have more experience than probably anyone else that will be on the show when it comes to this. But instead of the clap,
Yeah.
you know the name of it?
No, what's the name of it?
I don't know.
I don't know.
The cut thing.
I
in
know.
Hollywood, you know
I seen it.
I think breaking open the cans. That is the audio sync.
Dude, you got me the tall boy too. Wait, all right. I thought I was gonna. Ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. That was crispy, my boy. Cheers.
All right, man. First things first, I have the 5 photos. Thank you for participating on What on Earth is Going On.
I love it.
Before we get into them, I want to ask, what was your approach? What was it like having that disposable camera with you by your side? And what was the experience like?
I loved having the camera with me because it reminded me of how special and unique the day-to-day can be. I think you just get in motion and stay in motion, and life can get pretty blurred sometimes. So just pulling that camera out every now and again and snapping a moment, freezing it in time, and then obviously it's been developed and it's gonna be like unwrapping a Christmas gift to, that you don't really remember or know what you put in the box. But yeah, it was really great to have it on me. And I'm very nostalgic. I'm very sentimental with my memories and experiences. So I think it just made me more present and aware of moments that were candid and capturable. And I had a great time with it. So I really appreciate you inviting me to do the project and providing me with the camera and just encouraging me to take little snapshots of my life, because I think those little snapshots, those are the moments that really define your day-to-day, maybe even more than the big dramatic things that are moments that you would take photos of normally. So yeah, it was very, it helped me become more present and more grateful and more appreciative of my day-to-day. And yeah, I'm nervous to see what I was doing. I can't remember what my life was looking like, but I'm excited to be here. Tried to be artsy with it. I like this one. Do I show it to the camera, or how does this work?
It'll pop up.
It'll pop up. It'll be here.
So,
okay.
Photo number 1.
Photo number 1.
I know you're no stranger to books. Right? I know you're an avid reader.
I am.
Incredible author as well. You have 2 books. We have them right here. Paper Planes and Bandana Boy as well. Can you give me a quick context of that photo? Like what about that in particular gave you that moment to say, I should bring the camera out and I should take this picture? And then can you also dive into your love for pen and paper?
That's such a great question. Thank you for asking it. This moment in particular, I was actually in the public library in Santa Barbara, and it was one of my first times. I love libraries and being around books, but it was actually one of my first times being in there. All the coffee shops had closed and I was trying to continue working. So I just kind of packed up my bags and tried to find a new place to set up for a few hours. And one of my friends had recommended like the library. And I went over there, and you just walk in and the whole energy of a library, it's suddenly quiet. The outside world doesn't exist. Rows and rows of books and stories that, you can just kind of meander and wander and get lost in. So I think I was actually more distracted, and I don't think I actually got much work done, because it's just so interesting to see the different sections of life, of culture, of art. And I think in today's society as well, I don't think many people actually read physical books, or not as many. It's kind of a dying art. And it was just really nostalgic in a weird sense to be back in a library. And I know I'm like romanticizing this, because truly I was just like trying to finish some work and wandering through the aisles of a library. But it is special to be surrounded by all of these, stories that exist and that we have access to. And I think when I finally did sit down and work, every time I would look up, I would just be like peering down an aisle and kind of imagining like, what kind of stories are in there, imagining my books being picked up by somebody to be read at some point, like maybe from a library like this. And yeah, I just thought it was kind of artsy and cool, because the different vantage points that you have in a library with all the angles and like the stacks of books. I really love that aesthetic in general, I think. So when I pulled the camera out and I said, it's kind of ironic in a way that the most accessible place in the world, like a public library, is like a novelty for me to be experiencing. I don't know if that's a sign of the times or the like how digital this world is that we live in, but I thought there was something like heavily nostalgic and grounding about being surrounded by so many books. And yeah, I just thought it was good energy. And so that's the context of the photo. I tried to make it artsy, so I kind of peered like, over the top of a stack of books, trying to look down the aisle. But you'll see on the screen that the lighting isn't the best, but I kind of like it. It adds a lot of depth to it. I mean, if I'm looking at it from like an artistic point of view, I did just shove the camera into the little gap and press it and hope for the best. You know what I mean? That's kind of my style in life in general, I guess. But yeah, I'm sorry. The second part of your question was my love for
pen and paper, for that physical book.
Yeah.
Created two of your own.
Yeah.
And I know you love letters.
I do.
I know you love actually putting things down, having that physical piece to it. I just want you to dive a little bit deeper into maybe what inspires that love and what it means to you.
Yeah, well, alliteration aside, because I love alliteration, so pen and paper, just that phrasing just is something that really I am sentimental about. I do love the tangible, tactile nature of just pen and paper and how simple it is, but how much you can create with it, because it's unlimited. The amount of just the art that you can create, the words that you can write. And I have a pretty sentimental story of when I just graduated high school, and I was trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And there's a lot of pressure to kind of have it figured out at that young age when you haven't really experienced anything, you don't know anything, and you're getting pressured into making some big commitments to study a certain field or get a degree or this or that. And I remember having conversations with my mom, and I just believed in like the power of writing and the power of storytelling. And I told her, I was like, well, here's my strategy. Like, here's my best guess at how this life's gonna go. I said, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna live some incredible stories while I'm young and while I can and have the energy to do it. And then I'll spend the rest of my life telling those stories and trying to make a living of it, or at least make a life of it. And I just told her, I was like, yeah, all I need is a pen and a piece of paper, and I'm gonna be all right. And I think that there's something really stabilizing in that mentality. I was like, I just need literally a pen and a piece of paper, and I'm gonna like carve my way in this world. I'm gonna forge my path. And I just love like I said, it's just like, it's infinite. A piece of paper, a blank piece of paper. It's like the ultimate metaphor. Every day is a new chapter. And not coincidentally, my first book, well, I guess technically both books. The first book, The Bandana Boy, I wrote the entire book with Sharpie on a legal notepad. And I mean, I had dozens of notebooks and thousands of pages of loose paper that you put them all together, and they comprised the entire book. And it was a conscious choice, because what I found was that with the Sharpie specifically, and with all the open space, all the open real estate on the page, it felt like an artist painting. It was like brush strokes. And it was a very pleasant experience, the actual feeling of writing and sliding the Sharpie on the paper, that was really enjoyable. And it wasn't this kind of holding your breath, clenched fist, pinching a pen and carving it into the paper. It's funny to get that like sensory, but it really was about the experience of creating. And I was like, I want to enjoy every layer of this. And I did find it kind of novel that I was still using pen and paper in this sense, or Sharpie and paper, to write a book. And it just gave me more time to think, because I think the connection between our brain and our fingers, sometimes it's too fast. And when I'm typing, I would find myself typing and then deleting really fast. It was too easy to throw an idea out there that hadn't been really thought through, and then to just take it all away and it would disappear, and hours would go by and I would just be staring at this blinking cursor and see no progress. So I think when you have an idea and you take the time to let your hand write one letter at a time, you start to realize if the idea is good or bad before you finish writing it out, you know? So it gave me a chance to like make my little detours and my little calibrations as I went. So yeah, that was the actual creative process, was just hundreds and hundreds of, you know, notebooks and of all sorts, napkins, pieces of paper, anything that I could write on at the time. I used to take the train into New York City a couple times a week before I moved there, and I would just spend my whole time on the train, head down with my Sharpie in hand. And I laugh because I don't know how often you write with a Sharpie, but it's pretty toxic. You know, like the fumes actually can like alter your so it kind of felt like I was like psychedelically writing a few of those chapters. So if there are any you know, moments that you question, I blame the Sharpies.
All right, my friend.
I love this.
Photo 2 needs some context.
I'm sure it does. Yeah.
I think that one jumps out. You know, I see your 27 photos. That one jumps out right away. You know, and I want you to, one, give us that context. Very important. Tell me about that scene, that moment, and how you found yourself there.
Right.
And then 2, I would love it if you would give advice to someone who, whether it's with an iPhone, disposable camera, camcorder, if you could give them advice to finding moments like that in the everyday.
Wow. I love your questions.
Thank you.
You're very articulate, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness behind the questions. So I would like to contextualize this photo, although typically I don't in my life. I typically share, and because I enjoy the chaos and the randomness of not allowing you into the moment if you weren't there. But in this particular moment, I was shooting a little mini commercial for the #1 Airbnb in Santa Barbara. And we were basically, I invited 2 of my friends in to kind of pretend to be going through like a day in the life, a little staycation. And on the property, they have sauna and spa amenities. They have a chicken coop. It's really quite nice. It's like a little garden lush oasis. And so in the middle of filming, we had a scene that we wanted to show off the red light mask, and we had never used it before. We had never seen it, right? The owner of the Airbnb gave it to us, and we had a good laugh because it just instantly felt like a serial killer. Like the vibes were so funny. Like we get that it's
like
very
Halloween.
no.
But it didn't look exactly right. But
Yeah.
100%.
So you get it. It's supposed to really be good for your skin. Allegedly, but we didn't even turn it on. I think we maybe turned it on, but the real moment was just capturing them kind of lounging and relaxing. But then it just became very silly and playful because how could you not? And I think one of the things that I really love about this photo is that it represents the silliness of my everyday life. Although I'm very serious about what I do, I don't want to live a life where my day-to-day doesn't look like this, you know? And have moments where you just are human, and like we're all grown-ups here acting like children and getting paid to do it. And I think that's one of the most special common opportunities that you can have in this life. So that was the moment, and this is a little staged, I will admit, because we were just playing around and getting playful, and then I said, oh, I thought of your camera, so thank you again for giving me the project. I said, this is a perfect moment, and yeah, I just staged them, and those are 2 of my good friends, and I think I really appreciate this photo because, again, I mean, I don't know how much context they'll have about what I'm doing or trying to do, but essentially, this is a moment where it kind of felt surreal, where I created this opportunity. As you know, probably when you're on set or you're doing something cool and you're like, I did this. Like, I created this moment, and like I'm trying to make a living off it or make a life out of it. And so I really love this photo because I'm gonna look back at this, you know, one day and say, that was part of my job, you know? Like to the grandkids, like, you know, I had a pretty good job, I had a pretty fun job, you know? So this is a very special moment. Your second question. Your second question was what advice would I give to somebody who's trying to capture kind of moments like this from like maybe a more photographic or maybe just a human standpoint or point of view? For me personally, I love the candid, more documentary style art. So anything that looks like you're just kind of like a fly on the wall, or you're just roaming around, which I am most of the time, with some sort of handheld camera and just letting it fly and not worrying about the results. That's what resonates the most with me, because I'm a person who really values the human connection and the human experience. And I think when you capture candid moments, it allows this kind of honest connection between people where they see this and they can relate it to times that they've had, and it doesn't feel posed and it doesn't feel inauthentic, because everywhere you look nowadays is an advertisement and somebody's trying to sell you something, and they're getting more and more clever about it, making it look like, oh, I'm just like you, a normal human being who drinks this, and insert product here. And I think so there, in my heart, I really try to go against the whole staging things or making things feel too perfect. I think the imperfections are what connect us really, especially in art. And so if you're trying to capture moments like this, I think just being present is honestly the best, is the best kind of strategy for capturing really, truly candid, beautiful moments, because you're almost aware of the language of human interaction, and you can see a scene developing. Like, we've seen enough movies, we've lived enough life to kind of see kind of the culmination or the climax crescendoing, to that point where something beautiful is about to happen, or just having the awareness and the recognition to look around and stop and pause for a second and say, this is a beautiful moment. Like, this is a beautiful moment in time. We're all here, we're healthy, we're laughing, we're happy, we're being silly, playful, whatever the moment is. And just having the awareness to say that this should be a memory. It's going to be a memory, for a time being. But if you want to make it more permanent and kind of capture it on the film, to just see the world through your eyes in that sense, and recognize the moments as they develop, and then just press the shutter when it feels right and don't look back at it. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I'm excited about your last answer, because I feel like it's a perfect segue into photo 3. We did not script that at all. I was taking notes and I'm like, oh man, it's perfect. This next one, it's a bit odd, right? It's a little out of focus. It's a different composition. It looks like just almost like a random scene, if you will. So first, I would love for you to give that context. Give me this moment, if you remember where you were and what inspired you to take this photo. And then if you could also dive into your relationship with imperfection when it comes to writing, your business, your life, and how you can kind of cope with that in a world that often demands or really loves that polish and that perfection.
These questions are so profound. I really appreciate them. This photo actually is perfect for what you're talking about, because I don't remember exactly what the interior of this building is. Like, I don't remember where I was, but I remember the moment. I was with a friend who was helping me to design the logo for my new business, and we were going back and forth, and I was searching for something in my backpack, and I was pulling out all my stuff, and I kind of have the Mary Poppins backpack sometimes where I just have everything in there. And then I pulled out the camera that you gave me, and I put it on the table, and my friend picked it up, and they're like, oh, what's this? And I was like, oh, I'm doing this really cool project. Like, my friend sent this camera, and he's going to interview people about like these little snapshots, these little clips, snippets of their daily life. And she was kind of holding up the camera and kind of pointing it around, and she was like, how does it work? I was like, oh, it's old school. Like, you don't know how the old school cameras work. And so she was messing around, like winded it, put the flash and took it off. It was just kind of messing around with it. And I was like, yeah, you just kind of point it like anywhere that feels right. And she was just kind of pointing around. I was like, and then you just click it. And then she clicked it. And I looked at her, I was like, you're not supposed to actually click it.
Like, I got 27 of those.
Exactly. I was like, this is film. I was like, in this economy, that's crazy. So yeah, it was a funny moment, because I just looked at her, I was like, all right, now I have one less memory to capture. But in a sense, she captured a beautiful memory.
She got one of the 5.
She captured that kind of innocence, that playfulness of just being a kid and being curious about how things work and what life is. And So I wish I had better context for it, but truly, like, the outcome shows exactly what it is. She just pointed that camera and snapped it. And it was more about the action of taking the photo than what the photo was going to look like. And she had a good time. She enjoyed it. It made us laugh. We had a good moment. And she'll probably never see this photo unless she watches the podcast, which we hope she does. But it's one of these things where sometimes sometimes the process and the action of creating is really the whole purpose of creating. And I think so we get oftentimes very lost in the expectations for what that art that we create will have in terms of effect on the world, in terms of effect on our life, because we hope that if we create something beautiful that we'll be compensated for or rewarded for it, so then we can continue creating beautiful things. But I feel like sometimes you forget, like, that is the whole point, you know? And sometimes just holding a camera and pointing it and shooting it and then never seeing what the photo on the other side looks like is the whole point. And that's very, like, you know, metaphorical, but at the same time, it's very true. I think that when you create because you have something you need to express or you want to express, something you want to say. And I think you should feel content in the sense of accomplishment in just the sake of saying it and creating what you meant to create and pressing that shutter and capturing that moment. And the more imperfect, the better. And so to answer your secondary question, which I believe was sorry, could you repeat the whole question so that I can answer it?
Can you describe your relationship with imperfection?
I think my relationship with imperfection is entirely involuntary.
I did not consent to this relationship.
I did not consent to all of the imperfections that I've been plagued with, but I do feel that the more imperfect I am, the more relatable I am. And I think the fear of imperfection stops many people from creating in the first place, or from following through, or from sharing. And I think that really it just stems from an uncalibrated definition of success. And again, when you define your own success, in terms of when I was writing these books, my idea of success was write a book. What happens after is just after. The dream has been lived, you know, the journey has been, like, you know, gone on. So I think in terms of, if I had waited until I had something perfect to say, I would never say anything.
You'd be still waiting.
I would be silent, you know, you'd be still waiting. And so I think accepting that, I think we write narratives in our head about how we want our lives to be versus accepting how they're kind of destined and how they're written. And I just think that this concept of imperfection is actually what, like, it's like a poor definition of perfection, imperfection, especially in terms of art, because I feel like the reason why you like one artist over another, the reason why you have preference, the reason why you relate to something is all the differences. And if you're going to set one definition of what a perfect painting is or a perfect photo, then every photo in the album is going to look exactly the same. And every painting in the museum is going to be in the same color palette with the same composition, because we as society defined that this is perfect and this is imperfect. And we only want perfect. I feel like art is the opposite. It's the freedom. It's like we only want imperfect, you know? And I think that that's kind of the beauty of creating. But then in your own life, being a human, I think that the more you fail, it means that you're trying something that you're not sure you can do. And if you only ever do things that you're certain that you can do or accomplish, they're probably not very hard or meaningful, or there's something you've done a million times, so they're not very novel. And I think that the people that we see who fail over and over and over again, they often have the most epic stories, but also they're just the most humble, grounded people, because they've accepted that they are not perfect and that they're not going to be this person who just everything they touch turns to gold, which we all kind of wish we were. Everything we created just successful right away. But you learn so much more in the failure, and you learn so much more about yourself in the imperfections. And I think that the most beautiful element, I would say, is that the more you embrace your imperfections and encourage it and celebrate them, whether in your art or in your personal identity, you encourage the people around you to embrace their imperfections, and you're encouraging people to be more themselves. And I think the more aligned that everyone out there in the world is living with themselves, like more aligned with who they really are and what they represent and show to the world, I think just the kind of happier everyone's going to be, the more beautiful the world is going to be, because you're not fighting these existential identity crises because you're trying to pretend to be perfect. And if we can help create the stigma or erase the stigma of perfection, then you can really just be yourself. And those are the ones I want to be hanging around with anyways and creating with. So yeah.
Amazing.
Very imperfect photo.
Thank you.
On the threshold, on the border of two imperfect.
Wasn't me though.
Yeah, it wasn't me. Yeah, it wasn't me. I swear.
All right, my friend.
Let's talk.
All right. Photo 4.
Talk to me.
You started Crush Cans, which is your business that you described as helping people hustle. Guerrilla marketing, event planning, idea creation, all the above. If they have something, if you have a business, a brand that wants to do something, you're going to help them get there and do it.
That's right.
Especially in these ways that are a little bit more unconventional, a little bit grittier, a little bit more raw, a little bit love for the vintage. I feel like you've always had that kind of style, that kind of vibe when it comes to your work, your personal life, your energy as you go throughout your day. This is photo 4. I would love for you to give the context of this photo and also just describe what appeals to you so much about that vintage look and why you've embraced it in the way that you have.
When I took this photo, I had you in mind for sure. I thought you would appreciate this more than anyone. So yes, my business is Crushed Cans, and we help people hustle. And the core personality and brand identity is this nostalgic form of hustle that we had when we were children. Like the creativity and the blood, sweat, and tears that we put into the most kind of creative or hilarious schemes just to make a few dollars or cents. The heart of that is what I'm trying to capture and what I'm trying to kind of represent with my brand identity and moving forward when I actually kind of launch the aesthetics and things of this nature. I want them all to feel very wrapped in nostalgia and grounded in the raw hustle that we can all relate to. You know, if I asked you, what's the first thing you ever did to make money?
Probably mow some lawns or rake some leaves. That was always the way to do it.
Do you think anybody else could relate to that?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's the hustle.
Every 12-year-old kid.
Every 12-year-old kid out there could, and they can relate to either being on a slanted hill and having like scared they're gonna roll over with the mower, or they had the one client that wanted the diagonal cut, or they had acorns in the lawn and they were getting smacked with them. Like, it's just relatable and it's human. And at its essence, it's this idea of when you were first learning that, like, if you want something, you have to go get it, you know? And I think I want to stay true to that, and I want to stay rooted in that. And who I am as a person, when you identify yourself, you might say, above all else, if I had to choose one title to represent who I am as a human, maybe you would say I'm a photographer. Maybe you'd say I'm a storyteller. Maybe you would choose a different title for yourself. When I sit and think about who I am, I would say I'm a hustler. That's the title that I identify with most. It's what I have the most professional experience in. You know what I mean? Like, I've never really had a real job, so I think my whole life has just been one continuous grind, one scheme after another, and just hustle. And hustle's at the heart of all of it. I think hustle's at the heart of everything that I try to do, because I'm not the most skilled. I'm not the smartest. I'm definitely not the most educated. So if I have any superpower, it's just this willingness to grind. And I recognize how much you can actually compensate for all of these other perceived weaknesses if you're just willing to put a little bit more hustle into the game. And so I really live by that. I don't cheat the game. I give it I pay every penny, you know? So
You collect every can.
I collect every can. Well, yeah, I'll tell you the quick origin story of why we're sitting here with cans and why my business is called Crushed Cans. So you were mowing lawns. The first way that I ever made a nickel, literally, was I would take and return crushed cans and bottles to the center and 5 cents a pop, and we'd just be feeding them to the machines. And I remember one of the most vivid memories of my life, kind of like the core of who I am. I was probably at this point maybe 15, already had some other hustles. I was starting to stack the hustles, mowing some lawns, but always returning the bottles and cans. And it was the middle of winter, frigid, hands, your hands frozen, and we're reaching into these garbage bags, and it's me and one of my best friends, Manny, and we're just putting bottles and cans, and we're kind of silent because it's so cold and we're tired, but we're just there to get that money. And then we start yapping and talking shit about, oh, one day, man, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do this, just scheming and then we're just hyped up and we're like, oh, man, I don't care how rich I ever get, no matter what, I'm always going to return bottles and cans for 5 cents because that's 5 cents. Like, respect every penny, like every penny counts. So I think that moment in time was just like this humility and this groundedness of like, always respect the hustle, and I want it to feel like that. So this photo is a photo of this collection of cameras that I've been assembling over time that are all old vintage cameras, a lot of them coming from parents or coming out of, people's basements that they didn't want anymore, that I could buy it off them. And all the sticky notes are labeling if they worked or not, what was wrong with them, if they needed batteries, if they needed a new charger. So although I was able to actually kind of scrounge up a lot of these cameras just out of people not wanting them anymore, I had to put a lot of time and energy to find the right cords for them, the right cables. How do I even get them on my computer? They don't make it easy for you. So a lot of equipment purchased later, but I can officially say that these all work and I use them all. Some of them are film, some of them are digital, but they're all nostalgic. They're all like late 90s, early 2000s. They just capture such a home video feel that you watch it and you instantly are transported back to that time, like you're watching yourself on the TV. And I think it just feels very documentary based, which is what I want my brand to feel like. Like I'm just capturing the real hustle and not trying to glorify it necessarily and not trying to make it idyllic. I want it to really just feel like what it is. Because I think a lot of the stories that we could share about our hustles, they probably weren't very pretty. You know what I mean? There's a lot of grit, there's a lot of grime. And I think that if I'm going to tell that story, then I need to use equipment that's going to capture it properly, have a little bit of grain, have a little bit of smudge, and capture you in a light that kind of freezes you in time. Because that's the thing about hustle, is that it's timeless. People have been hustling since day one, and they'll be hustling long after I hang them up. So I think I wanted a timeless look. And so I've been spending a lot of time trying to find the right equipment to capture it in a way that that'll withstand the test of time.
Number 5.
Yes, sir.
Photo number 5. I think it's my favorite in terms of like composition, in terms of color, in terms of that moment. And so it stood out to me mostly in that way. Just a really beautiful photo.
Thank you.
I think with the blue sea, clearly at sunset, some sort of party. I mean, this just screams California.
Yeah,
I know you have love for your roots here in Manchester, Connecticut.
I do.
You have been somewhat adopted by the West Coast lifestyle. I want you, 1, to give context with this photo, but 2, also just describe California and how it shaped your personal growth.
The irony of you appreciating the composition of this photo is that this photo was taken by me leaning over the side of a balcony, hanging on for dear life, with the camera out extended as far as I could, with a little twist and a little, a little snap, and we have this photo. So I'm glad that it turned out the way it did. Yeah, the colors are phenomenal. It is at sunset. This was a sunset boat party, pirate themed, in the harbors, outside the harbor of Santa Barbara. So this is part of I'm thankful to say this is also part of my work. One of my clients operates these incredible boat parties, and they're always themed, and they're amazing, and they are representative of the Southern California lifestyle. There's a DJ on board, and this was a pirate themed one. And I was technically working the event, but basically I just was babysitting and making sure nobody went overboard. So it was a pretty chill job. But again, this is one of those moments where I just have to laugh. Like, how do I pull this off? Like, I feel like I'm getting away with something, like I was working, right? But I'm standing here just kind of leaned up against the railing, watching the sunset, see on the sea breeze on my face, and I'm just getting paid to be there and enjoy my life. And so I think this has always been the dream for me. I was like, I'd rather get paid less and enjoy what I'm doing than get paid more and not want to be doing it. So I think, again, this definitely represents the beauty of winging it and just kind of calling anything a job if you can make a few dollars doing it. So I love this photo, actually. In terms of the California lifestyle, I will always consider, Manchester my home, and Connecticut in general. I think in terms of culture, in terms of just the energy, that's who I am. I have an East Coast energy. People think I talk funny out there. So like, I definitely will never abandon my roots, and I have a lot of love for obviously all my hometown people and family. But the beauty of California to me is that it opened up my it opened up my mind to a new world of like health and wellness, especially with mental health. Because I feel like growing up here, we didn't really know much about much, in terms of like how to like yoga or mindfulness or meditation or therapy, or maybe it's just of the time that we grew up. But I think one of the most beautiful things that I learned when I moved to California was that people prioritize like balance and living a healthy life and taking care of themselves. And I'm the type to run myself into the ground, and then pick myself back up and do it again. And so it was really shocking to see that people were intentionally making so much time to be in nature, or to connect with one another, or take care of themselves. I mean, I learned about so many foreign concepts, like breath work, and like, I mean, that's kind of funny. It sounds ignorant, but like, I just had never heard of these things, and I was young. I moved when I was 19. So like, I was still trying to figure out who I was and what life was. And it just opened up a whole different world of how to interact with the people around me and myself. And I think there's just such an energy in California, specifically. I live in Santa Barbara, where people want to be in nature, and people want to live now. And I think that's maybe a generational difference. I'm not sure if it's, an East versus West, but I feel like we're not the generation that is going to wait until the twilight of our life to start living it. We're not saving up for retirement in the sense that we're going to save all the experiences that we want to have until we're retired and can just go do it. I think we're kind of this new mindset of, I'm going to live while living. I'm going to go take that trip, even if I can barely afford it, but I'm going to go and come back and be happy that I did it. And I think that's something that I was really surrounded by, that energy of people just taking trips all the time, and people having, like, you're creating the opportunity to go explore and to go experience, when, I'm looking around like, why is nobody working? You know what I mean? Like, why are we not on the grind right now? So there was a bit of a culture shock for me, where people move slower and they talk slower and they talk just to talk, and so it was kind of a little anxiety inducing at first, but I've really grown to adopt that. And I feel like I, within myself, kind of have this balance between the two coasts now, where I haven't lost the hustle, I haven't lost the drive, I haven't lost the energy or the culture, but I also have learned to really take care of myself and to take deep breaths every now and again. And I think that that's what's so appealing about being out in California, is that you're just surrounded by people who want to be healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. So yeah, I like to think that I got the best of both coasts inside me, you know? I hope so.
Amazing. Ryan.
Yes, sir.
5 photos on what on earth is going on. You did it. Thank you so much, not only for spending your time here today, but being a part of this project, taking that camera with you out on the boats, in the libraries, out in your daily life. And I appreciate your time.
And I appreciate you, my boy. Thank you. Wait, can we take a pause? Because I want to look at something.
Yeah,
and
sure thing.
Just if you want to clip it later, because I think one of the last, speaking to the mic, one of the last chapters of the Bandana Boy, I just want to read this one segment because it's one of my, oh my gosh, the last chapter of the Bandana Boy, just because it's a perfect segue. It says, Boy was going to wait until he had the perfect words to write before he put the pen to paper. But he knew that he had nothing perfect to say. What he had to write was raw and flawed. However, it was the truth, and not one he had imagined for himself. There was no perfect ending to his story, nor had there been an optimal beginning, but the pages would be filled. His story would be written. Boy did not actually believe in perfect endings because nothing perfect would ever end, but his story was imperfect in every way, and thus it must conclude.